Hello, it's Alex. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. This week's video is primarily focused on building on what I talked about last week, which is that I'm planning my autumn-winter wardrobe and autumn-winter sewing based on this book, The Curated Closet. I was going to say wardrobe. Curated Closet by Anushka Rees. I have got some patterns to show you later on, but primarily I'm looking at the first stage. I was really pleased that lots of you like this idea and are also getting on board. And some of you have dashed off and bought it, and don't forget, because it's been out a few years, there's every chance that your libraries will have it or that you can order it from the library. I am now being dazzled by the sun. It's not been seen that frequently here. Yeah, who knows where my first original copy of this is, because I had to reorder it last week or so. There's every chance it could be stuck down there actually. Before I say anything more, just because this wobbled, public service announcement. People have been, when I'm in this spot, a little bit transfixed by my coffee cup here. I promise you, doesn't matter how much I flail my arms around, it's not going anywhere. It has never tipped over. It'll be fine. Right. Yeah, what I'm trying to focus on is making sure that when I sew things, they are things that I'm going to wear, that they're going to fit with other things in my wardrobe, and that I'm not getting seduced by pretty patterns, as in prints, or ideas that I'm going to be out in evening wear, when in fact, when was the last time I wore anything evening-ish? I want to have a wardrobe of things that fit me and my lifestyle, and whatever my style is. I still cannot tell you how I would describe that. So that's the dog down there. And I thought, having read about this book, that this might well help with all of that. It's certainly not supposed to be a one-size-fits-all or a capsule closet or any of those things. It's supposed to be very individual for you and your lifestyle. Are you settled now? Okay. What I thought I would talk about is the first step, and I'm kind of already slightly amending it in that I'm going to combine the first step and the second step together and do them simultaneously. So the first step is to document what you wear. Before you get to that, there is a section in the book. I put a picture of it, or put a picture of one page of it on Instagram. There's this closet diagnostics page. It's a little chart that you kind of answer yes or no, like those quizzes we used to have in our teenage magazines. Maybe that was just me. Anyway, yes or no to various questions about your wardrobe, and if you answer no, then it says, okay, well, this is going to be solved, or this is going to be discussed in a later chapter. So they are things like, do you know exactly what type of silhouettes and colours and materials make you feel the most confident and comfortable? Do you have a tendency to spend over your budget or shop on impulse? I say nothing. Can you simply not help yourself when you see an irresistible bargain, deal or sale? That, by the way, applies to fabric and patterns as much as it does to clothes in the shops. And I am susceptible to all of it. So yeah, I found that this is a little sort of starting point to get your mind around the kind of general concepts was really good, and also reassuring to know that some of the issues that, well, certainly I face are going to be covered. And I felt very much like this woman, having read this, has been secretly following me. Glad to know I'm not alone, because a lot of the things that came up on this were certainly relevant to me. So the opening chapter really is about the philosophy of the book and what the aims are and where you should be looking for. It's talking about things like aiming for good quality and fit and all of that kind of thing. And then the first bit of homework, and it is a book with homework. It's been a long time since I've had any homework. the kind of how to use this book section, first bit is about documenting your wardrobe. And it's suggested that you take a photograph of everything you're wearing over a period of 2 weeks. Now, then it moves on to the next stage, which is about immersing yourself in inspiration. I am a very impatient person. It's one of my personal weaknesses. Impatience is definitely right up there. And I thought to myself, right, if I'm going to do this literally by the book and document everything I'm wearing for 2 weeks, I want to be getting on with some other things. So I'm going to do that and at the same time go through the immersing yourself in inspiration phase simultaneously. And I think as much as I'm impatient, and I'm dying to just get onto the whole raiding your closet and weeding things out and getting to the result at the end, I think actually it will work really well. Not least because she suggests it, but we are certainly in the UK, and by the way, I think that this will work just as well for friends over on the other side of the world who are coming out of autumn winter and going into spring summer. Yeah. We are in a funny transitional phase. We are not quite cold enough that we're wearing our big coats and tights and chunky boots yet. You know, I'm still sitting here in a t-shirt today. I've only been putting jackets on, fairly lightweight jackets. A couple of times when I've gone out, you know, a jumper or a hoodie has been enough. But at the same time, it's not warm enough for me still to be wearing summer dresses and to be kind of wandering around with bare legs, bare ankles maybe, but not bare legs. So we're in a bit of a funny intermediate phase weather-wise, and I've said this before, for me, I find it quite hard to sew or buy clothes for a season that I'm not yet in. So I think taking my time to do the documenting is not a bad idea because it's only going to get colder and more wintry. So the other thing I would say is, if you are thinking, why do I need to bother taking any photographs? Why don't I just, you know, make a visual note or try to memorize the things I've been wearing, or do I need to even do this? I know what I wear. I would say, as somebody who has seen herself here on video and in photographs that I take for Instagram, you will be amazed by how different something looks when you see a photograph back than when you see yourself in the mirror. I don't know why, there's some kind of magic that goes on. Sometimes it can work either way. Sometimes you can stand in front of a mirror and think something looks dreadful, and then when you take a photograph of it, you go, oh, actually that's not so bad. And vice versa. Obviously, you're only doing it for your own reference, so it doesn't matter if there's, I don't know, laundry in the background or the dog walking past or whatever. You know, it can be a mirror selfie. I think it's a good idea, and I'm going to curb my natural impatience, and I'm going to do it for at least 2 weeks, possibly even 3, depending on what the weather's doing and life. I've got a trip to Germany coming up. It's only a long weekend, but that might get in the way. The next stage is talking about immersing yourself in inspiration, and I really like this step. She says set aside an afternoon to do it, but that's why I think we could be doing it simultaneously over this 2 to 3 week period, because I like the idea of gathering inspiration sort of as and when, and over a period of a few weeks when you just see things as they happen. So this chapter on gathering inspiration is really worth a read, and it's really good for pointing you in the right direction and kind of guiding you what to be doing. So the idea is that you save images of things that you like, and you save them all in one place. Later on, you're going to weed it out and, you know, hone down on more specific things, but initially you just go a bit freeform. So if you see something that is a certain colour combination that you like, you save that. If you see something that is a fashion you like, even if you think, hold on, but I couldn't wear that. No, we're not worrying about that just now. You save it. You save absolutely everything. It could be shapes, it could be textures, and of course for us it can also be sewing patterns and fabric. She suggests that yes, you save it all in the same place. The obvious place to save things online is Pinterest, if you've got a Pinterest account. Her suggestion is that that's not ideal because of the way that your Pinterest images are just sort of as a grid and not in any particular grouping or orders. Don't forget that you can make your Pinterest folders private, so anybody else that's following you on Pinterest doesn't need to see your folders. Her suggestion is that you save your images into a mood board that you might create. I think she suggests InDesign or Illustrator, which to be honest is beyond most of us. I have got a mood board app called Milanote that I've saved everything to. I've used it before. I really, really rate it. No connection to them or anything. So that's where I'm going to be doing mine. If you want to check it out, I'll probably, when I've compiled all those images later on down the line, show you that in a bit more detail then. She talks about deepening your search. So if you find yourself getting fixed with, say, for example, a certain colour or a certain colour combination, she'll say, okay, just follow that to the next level. You know, what else could you pair it with? Are there other people using those colour combinations? Can it be a different texture? You know, really start going down the rabbit hole. And that's why I think trying to do this in an afternoon is probably a bit much, and just doing it as and when you're sitting down with a cup of coffee or at the end of the day after work, quite good fun to do. So her suggestions where to find inspiration is blogs, magazines, movies and TV shows, Pinterest itself, of course, online shops, people watching. What I have been doing for a little while on Instagram is if I see something on Instagram that I like the look of, I save it to a folder on Instagram. So I'm going to go through all those folders and screenshot and then save those images to Milanote. The other thing that's mentioned here is magazines. It's an obvious point of inspiration, and I have talked in the past before about Readly and the Readly magazine app. So this bit of the video is going to be sponsored by Readly, and again I've got an offer code coming up and it's going to give you 2 months free subscription with no obligation. You can cancel at any time, and this time my offer includes the UK, the US, New Zealand and Australia. Unfortunately, it doesn't cover Canada. Got lots of subscribers in Canada, but they're not available out there. So what I love about this is it is an app where you have access to a ton of magazines and newspapers. And for purposes of what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks, it's brilliant because pretty easy to set up. Once you've set it up, you can select all the magazines that you'd like to be able to access. You can access it. I've got it both on my iPad and on my phone. I have to say it was very, very nice to take with me on holiday when I was on holiday a couple of weeks ago. So dead easy to set up. There's a massive choice of magazines to choose from. So you just favourite the ones that you like, and then they will make recommendations based on those favourites. And you also get an update to let you know when there's a new edition available. So for the purposes of all the fashion magazines, what's great about it is you can look at everything from the kind of high-end like Vogue to, you know, I don't know, the kind of Good Housekeeping magazine. You can look at ones that are particularly fashion specific. I quite like following Hello Fashion or Grazia or those kind of magazines. But you can also look at the ones that are not necessarily English speaking. And you've got access to all the back issues. So, for example, I was looking at some of the Aussie magazines that obviously I wouldn't normally be able to access, and because I know that in Australia you've all just coming out of summer, I just went back a few months and looked at the winter editions, and then anything that I find particularly inspiring I can just bookmark within the Readly app. It's a really great way of being able to access a lot of images and a lot of fashion. Obviously at the moment all the magazines are very focused, because we're on a change of season, they're all very focused on the new coming trends, and as we've talked about before, our trends are great if there's a trend that's around at the moment that is particularly your style. So I like to know what they are, but then also I can kind of dismiss the ones that are not for me. Buttermilk as a colour is very on trend at the moment, and that would look dreadful on me. The monthly subscription cost after your 2 free months is very reasonable, especially when you think how much you can access. You can also have 5 profiles, so 5 members of your family can also have their own completely individual profiles where they can pick out magazines and newspapers that they like to read. I quite like the fact that you can also read articles that perhaps you might not otherwise have access to. Not so long ago I was flicking through Readly and I stumbled across an article, I think it was in the New Scientist, about ADHD. I've got a very good friend who's going through an ADHD diagnosis at the moment, so I was particularly interested to read it. I don't know that I would necessarily have had access to that kind of article before, so it's really, really good. And just away from the kind of fashion and style tangent, it's also brilliant for all the craft magazines, all the crochet magazines and the knitting magazines, and obviously the sewing magazines, because you get a lot of patterns. Some of the patterns are for the sewing magazines are ones that you can download. I've said before, if it's a pattern that normally you would get a paper pattern for, you're not going to get that, but a lot of them have downloadable patterns. And for the crochet and the knitting magazines, they are full of patterns. So for that one subscription, you've got access to tons. Also, before I finish, I've found that with the craft magazines, what's really good is that the links in the articles are clickable. So let's say you're on a sewing magazine and it's talking about a particular pattern company or a particular fabric company, and you see that and go, oh, I really like that. Normally you'd have to remember to go and seek them out, but the links are clickable, so you can click on it and it takes you through to that particular website, which is great. You can also zoom the print, because if, like me, where are they? You need glasses, you might need that. So I really, really rate the Readly app. I have started doing it, and I have to say I did get slightly sidetracked by reading some articles, but that goes back to why I think doing this over a period of a few weeks is probably better than just one afternoon, as is suggested in the book. The link is obviously going to be in the description box below for that 2 free months. Cancel any time. So that's the next stage of this book. Later on, because I haven't read it in depth, but I did go ahead a little bit and skim through the next stage, which is about weeding that out, deleting images that you later on kind of go, nah, actually I've changed my mind about that. And then there's a process of honing down what your style is, where your interests lie, what things you seem to be drawn to. And then the suggestion is that you go out to the big wide world and you go try things on. But that's later on and after you've kind of honed things down a little bit. Sewing wise, I took both my sewing machine and my overlocker to be serviced while I was on holiday. So it's been really nice to have, well, they're not new machines, but they feel like new machines, don't they? And I've been dying to get back sewing. So I don't want to I'm trying to be very mindful of what we're doing with this book at the moment and not get carried away. But at the same time, I can't not sew. So I have been sewing the Arvo shirt that I mentioned in my last video, but I'm about halfway through and I'm going to hold off until it's finished because I'm really liking how it's looking, and I'll show you on my next video. So I did also want to talk about fabrics, but before we get to that, just quickly, there are a couple of new patterns that have been released in the last week that I thought were worth mentioning. One applies probably more to those of you that are in warmer climes. Papercut patterns have kind of been very quiet for the last little while because the founder has been diagnosed with breast cancer, and so obviously she's not been very well. But a little bit of a press release went out last week saying that she is feeling much better, and therefore they have released some new patterns and they're going back to releasing their paper patterns. If you're someone that likes paper sewing patterns rather than PDFs, their patterns are without doubt the most beautiful packaging you've ever seen. They're almost worth buying just for the packaging. Anyway, new patterns are, there's two, it's a collection, I can't remember, is it called the Slow something? Two swimsuits and a dress. If that dress pattern had been released just a couple of weeks earlier, I without a doubt would have made it to take on holiday. I think it's beautiful. It has a crossover neck and there's two options, one with a really deep backline, which I think looks beautiful, and on holiday I would be more than happy to wear. Funny how slapdash you are about bras and that kind of thing on holiday. But there is also a higher backed option if that's not your thing, and of course you can make top versions of it as well. I think it's beautiful, and as you may know, I have shelved all attempts to do swimwear. But if I was going to do it, there's two swimsuits, and one of them is a swimsuit version of this dress with the same neckline. What I like about it is that it comes with a shelf bra inside, which I think is almost essential, and I think not all swimsuit patterns have that. And also it's got a variety of cuts around the bottom. And again, when I was looking at swimsuit patterns, I found so many of them were a cheeky cut. I don't particularly want to walk around on a beach with my bum on display to the world. So this one has more options that are perhaps a little more realistic. Great size range as well, Papercut patterns, really good size range. So I thought for those of you in warmer climes, they were worth a mention. And then the other thing that's just come out is Pattern Emporium seem to be on fire at the moment. They have released another new pattern. I am still desperate to make their wide leg trousers that came out 2-3 weeks ago. It's a balloon sleeve top. I think it's called the Be Mine balloon sleeve top. It has very similar sleeve details, super gathered, but sort of at an angle. Don't know that I'm explaining this very well. Sleeve detail to the sleeves in the Milano dress and top from O's patterns, which I love, but it is a more simple version. So that dress and top has a little bit more of a complex neckline and collar. This has, you know, is a round neck and would work nice and simple to make and would work in lots of different fabrics. And Pattern Emporium, as I'm always saying, have excellent instructions, and they always come with a gazillion different options. I was going to say I'm going to buy this pattern. I am going to buy this pattern because when they release patterns, it's always on a discount. You see, look, I can't stop it. Is it on sale? Yes. Do I want to buy it? Yes. But I feel like this is one of those blouses or those tops that you could make in all sorts of different fabrics and it would work. Anyway, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to share this with you. I think it's a really nice one. So just before I go, briefly wanted to touch on fabric. Because I'm focusing on this. I want to focus in the meantime on plain fabrics and not prints. I think prints is where a lot of us end up with this funny mishmashed wardrobe, isn't it? Because we get drawn to these lovely prints and then you end up with, you know, a million, in my case, a million shirts with different prints, and that makes life harder to pair them with other items. So I want to focus on, in the next couple of weeks, on finding really good quality plain fabrics for autumn winter. I think it's a lot easier in the summer because linen, basically. In the summer months, if I want to make something that's a plain and it's a woven, it's going to be in linen or a linen blend or a double gauze. She says wearing double gauze trousers right now. And I find that that's dead easy. In the winter, I find it's harder. So I'm trying to look for, and I would really appreciate any suggestions and recommendations. Maybe I'll keep a little list and put it somewhere of really good quality plain fabrics for, now I made a list, a great twill chino style in a good range of colours. So like that sounds really the sort of thing that I could make a pinafore dress out of, or a pair of trousers. It's not going to have a huge amount of drape to it and it's sort of medium weight, but I'd like to find something that has a good range of colours. I am definitely having a bit of a brown phase at the moment, and yeah, browns and tans, cognac-y kind of colours I'm always drawn to. So if anybody sees anything like that, please let me know. I'm also going to be keeping my eyes peeled. Plain medium weight fabric for trousers and dresses with a little drape. Not 100% tencel or viscose. Could be a viscose blend or have a blend of tencel in there, but I'm not talking about 100% of either of those things, which I think can be slippery and not always easy to sew and a bit thin. I'm thinking of something that's a medium weight, that if I was making, say, a pair of those billy wide leg trousers that you want to have a little bit of drape to, but is a really nice quality, what is that fabric? Where should I be looking? What kind of blends? Please let me know. Jeggings fabric. Right. A couple of years ago, I made the Mountain View jeans, itch to stitch, in something that was called jeggings fabric from TFG Fabrics, and she has closed down. And that fabric is brilliant. I wear those jeans or trousers all the time, and I need to find something similar. So it's not as thin as a jersey. It's got a texture almost like a peak. It's not as thick as a denim. It's jeggings fabric. Anyone seen anybody? Not anyone seen anybody. Anyone seen any fabric? Let me know. Sweater knit. I've raved about the faux Angora jersey that looks like a sweater knit. I love a sweater dress. I made a sweater dress last year or the year before out of a brown sweater knit that I bought, I think in Abercarn. I don't really know what it was made of. And I used a Pattern Emporium dress. I love that dress. It's brilliant. I made a separate neck piece for it, so it made it really versatile. But it has bobbled like mad and it looks, well, frankly, it's got to go. It just looks dreadful. Where is there really nice sweater knit fabric? I'm not talking about sweatshirting like French terry or fleeceback sweatshirting, sweater knit. On the hunt for that. And then last but not least, I'm pretty sure is Ponte. Yeah. Viscose Ponte, not polyester Ponte. I haven't found any yet. And again, desperate to make those wide leg trousers that were the new Pattern Emporium pattern from a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember what it's called. I'll link it down below. So I'd quite like to get a little master list of good quality plain fabrics for autumn winter. Any ideas? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget that Readly offer, 2 months free, no obligation, you can cancel at any time. The link will be below and it's going to apply for the UK, the US, friends in New Zealand and Australia. Okay, I'll definitely have something to show you next week. It'll be back to normal a little bit for the next couple of weeks while I'm back sewing again, and then yeah, 3-4 weeks time I will give you an update and show you where I got to with the inspiration and taking all the photos. Let me know how you're getting on. I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.